Welcome to Color Me Mama, the podcast in which Black moms are celebrated, encouraged, and inspired to color outside the lines. I'm your host, Ashley Shante, and head mama in charge. I'm happy you have joined me for another episode. Let's chat. All right, so welcome back to Color Me Mama. This is actually a part 2 episode. So for those of you that are joining for the first time, my name is Ashley Shante. I'm a wife, I'm a mother of 2, a boy mama, and most importantly to this podcast, I am host of this podcast, Color Me Mama, where I heavily encourage, inspire, hopefully, Black moms to color outside of the lines of society's constructs of motherhood. Last episode, we went into me being an awesome mom and what that has been like for me and my journey with that. I wanted to do a part 2 because though I gave my insight and a little bit about my journey, it's important for me to also share in that because, as I said before in the previous episode, being autistic is not like a monolithic experience, and it certainly isn't a monolithic experience for other mothers that are mothering awesome children. So I want to bring in a special guest. This is someone that I've known in such a short time, but immediately it was such a refreshing greeting. Her presence is very soft. It's like a breath of fresh air. It's light. I share with her in a couple of things. Most importantly, she's a mom. She's a mom of multiple. She's actually a mom of 4 children. She's an educator, which I thought I was so excited because to get her perspective is very interesting because sitting in the seat of being an educator, but also a mom. And then also, she's also an awesome mom. One of her children is also on the autistic spectrum. And to this season, which we talked a lot about Africa, she can give a little bit about her experience of experiencing the continent, what it's like for her as being a researcher and some of the learning and education she's done here, what it's like for her kids to have come here and experienced it. So we'll get into that. I want to welcome, I like to call her a friend, she's a new friend of mine. Hi, Kimberly.
Hello, Ashley.
Welcome to Color Me Mama.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashley.
I'm really excited, and anytime like people say yes to me, like it's like genuinely I'm really grateful. Like one of my favorite things to do is talk to Black women, and since becoming a mom, like talking to other Black moms, it's something I literally could do all day. Like if my vocal cords would allow me to do, I do, because it charges my spirit. I'm inspired by it. I'm encouraged by it. It feels like a hug. And so, recently, as you know, my bridge was diagnosed with autism. And I was telling the audience that it was not this earth-shattering experience for me. It wasn't like the rug was ripped from under me because my husband and I pretty much already knew Bridge was autistic. Yes. So we just kind of went ahead with addressing the needs and the support that he needed. We just went right into that.
I love that.
And I think for me, because, already mothering him being a NICU mom, him being in the NICU and me being a NICU mom and all those things, I just had a little bit more grip on the situation of like, I have more awareness of the capacity that I have emotionally to be able to take in certain things, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
I knew first, like, okay, he keeps repeating everything I'm saying. What is that? Okay, let me look that up. Oh, there's a word to that. Oh, it's echolalia.
Yes.
Okay, he's writing all over my wall and stuff, and I know they say other kids do that, but this is a bit obsessive. Okay, he's reading, and he's only 2 years old. Like, he's in the back of the car seat going, Red Lobster, Publix,
yes.
Costco, or whatever, reading regularly. And I was like, okay, he's really intelligent, but there's something here, like the obsession with the alphabet. So I would like Google different things, and there were like little breadcrumbs basically. So we were like hyperlexia, echolalia, then pretty much I was telling the audience around 3, I think my first real experience in realizing that his vocabulary needed to be extended was we were at a playground with a little girl that was about his same age. And I do try not to compare kids. I've said that before because they're all different. But I was like, maybe, like he would do certain things, like if he wanted something, he'd just say muffin, juice. And I'd say, fridge. How do you say? He said, can I have a muffin, please? So he'd repeat what I'm saying. So I'm like, okay, he's just taking the path of least resistance.
Yes.
But I noticed, Kim, that I had to keep going over that and going over that. So then I'm realizing, okay, we need a speech therapist. Okay, we need a. So anyway, long story short, it's been about maybe 9 months of, maybe 7 to 9 months in between of him being in speech therapy. And then also he's been going to a Montessori school, and then I've been a part of a neurospicy parenting group here, actually in DAR, which we'll talk about. But those things helped me emotionally deal with it in pieces rather than all overwhelming.
Yes.
But I'd like to know your experience.
Wow.
So you're a mom.
Yes.
You have 4 children.
Yes.
One of your children, the one smack in the middle,
Yes.
is a part of the neurospicy community.
Yes.
He's a boy like mine, so we share in that.
Yes.
And
a redhead, would you imagine?
Oh my goodness, I need to see him.
I will share. Yes, yes.
That's
so he's really spicy.
Yes, really spicy.
Yes,
Look at God, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
So can I ask you, okay, was he officially diagnosed, and not that it matters to him being autistic or not, but I want to know, when was it that you knew, okay, my child is autistic?
Yes, wow. And I love how you led with that disclaimer that it doesn't the official diagnosis is a means to an end for a lot of us, particularly in the West, in America. When it comes to accessing services, you need that official diagnosis. Absolutely. However, it can be a barrier to some people. Some people, I'll speak for myself personally, being from Texas, from Dallas, there are at the time with my son, who's 11 now, 2 developmental pediatricians in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So if you think about that, and all of us are trying to access to get that official report and diagnosis.
And this is how long ago? Sorry, because your son is 11.
I didn't even officially answer. So he was officially diagnosed around the age of 4. He was in between. I think he was like 3.5, almost 4. So around the same age as him. And he also spent some time in the NICU. Spoiler alert. I didn't share that. He was born healthy and everything was fine. Relatively normal pregnancy. But he contracted RSV at 5 days old. So we went home with everything being fine, but before he reached a week old, we were back.
You were back.
Because of that. His birthday, we share the same birthday, December 2nd. I gave birth to him on my birthday.
Wow. Literal birthday.
Literal birthday.
I love that.
Thank you. So, in Texas, it's cold and a lot of flu, all kinds of things are going on.
The weather is all over the place in
all
Texas.
Over the
it
place.
Jumps around, so it's easy to get sick. I see that. Yeah.
Especially in December. So, so we spent time in the NICU as well. So I really connect with you when you talk about that. But regarding my experience, I also like how you spoke about almost having that natural reaction to fight, because when our babies are placed in a situation where literally their lives are on the line, because in the NICU that's what's happening. And we give birth to them and we immediately come into that state, then we're like, dukes are up, from now on. So
for sure. Well, also too, because you're so fresh out of, I know for me, like I said, you guys and I was sharing with Kimberly a little bit before we press record, I still have PTSD from the NICU, and I'm very aware of that. In order for me to truly heal from it, I'm aware that I have that.
you go from carrying this baby that a lot of the things at least you feel you have control over. I'm controlling over how much water I'm drinking.
Yes.
Or I'm not, okay, I've reached the point where I'm not lifting weights anymore.
Yes.
Or, okay, I'm not going to eat deli meat or whatever, all the rules and whatever else that you feel in your control. Once that baby is out and now it's in the NICU, you feel helpless.
Absolutely.
Like, what am I offering? All I have right now, Lord, is prayer.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that, because what else can I do? So, yeah.
And you're right. I never really looked at it as PTSD, but absolutely I can see that. Because for me, my experience, at least 2 babies passed away while my son was there. And I had developed a relationship with those moms. And it was, it is similar to being like in war. Because you're fighting every day. I couldn't eat, but I was nursing, and they were practically forcing me to eat. They said, you have to eat so you can continue to. And
I am so sorry to step in, but you know what? I've never heard anyone use that language, and actually with you saying that is similar to war.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of freeing for me. I hope it frees some other people too, to give some validation to the PTSD that they have, or the feelings that they may have about it. Because interesting enough, when you say war, I was just telling my friend the other day, when Bridge was in the NICU, guys, while my son was in the NICU, it was during the height of COVID, the height of COVID. So there was this sound, this bell that would ring every couple minutes or so. This ding, it's eerie, even if I think of it now. And I was just so deep into whatever was happening with Bridge. But finally I asked one day, what is that sound? And they said, oh, that's someone that's another patient that's coming off of the ventilator, that's been battling COVID. So it's that duality of COVID happening during the baby. So I still, when I hear that sound, so when you say war, and even to this day, the sound of the beep, 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 the monitor, I think back, so yeah. For sure.
Yes. Same. I recall different sounds. I recall the smell. That's hospital smell. But there's a specific distinct smell in the NICU. And perhaps because they're all babies. So there's a sweetness, but still an eerie hospital.
Medical.
A blend of those two. Yeah. But we survived that, and our sons survived that.
Yes.
And then they grew, and now they're in another battle, So I know we're going to talk more about that, but for Ryan, when did I realize? So he's number 3 of my 4, right? He's the first boy.
Okay.
So it took a while, because I'm thinking, well, girls are more verbose.
They're more loquacious. They do, yeah.
So I went through that. Ryan is what many would term nonverbal.
Okay.
However, I always say my son is very verbal. He sings and he vocalizes a lot. However, he does have a dual diagnosis of autism and childhood apraxia of speech.
I have never heard, so can you enlighten? I've never heard of that.
Sure. So apraxia, speech apraxia, usually occurs in individuals who have a stroke. So you will hear the term used more commonly with older individuals.
Okay.
However, childhood apraxia of speech can occur in children. And what happens is certain parts of the words that they're speaking are deleted, I guess, to simplify it, because I'm not a speech pathologist. But so like my son, when he would say mommy, he would say ah-e. So the is gone.
It's gone.
Just the ah and the e. And he would couple it with the sign, because we did start with sign language. So I knew. And even now, when he speaks, there's a lot of deletions. Usually the first consonant is deleted off of almost every word.
Okay.
So that can be very frustrating, particularly the older that he gets. And as you said, they're so intelligent. Our boys are so intelligent. And so he's like, I have a lot to say and you are not understanding me.
Yeah. So the frustration.
So I'm always like, that is one thing that's very frustrating.
Yeah.
So we noticed around the age of 2 that he was making a lot of noises and a lot of, he's always been a joyful baby, but we noticed like, we don't really know exactly what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
But his sisters at this age, we knew. And so we noticed that. But me, sometimes being in denial, and this is where my education background comes in as well. I've seen diverse students, in different stages. I've seen them go from maybe coming into pre-K, because I did teach pre-K for 4 years. And I still say, I think it might have been my favorite grade to teach, because I've taught from pre-K in America. Pre-K are typically ages 3 and 4, all the way up to the university level. So I've been in each of those little categories.
So you've seen a lot in just a diverse.
I have. Yeah. The pre-K, I just love it, because I've had students come in knowing no alphabets at all, and then leave reading. So I know how it can be where literally you see nothing, but there's always something there. And then a beautiful flower blooms, by the end of the year. So I always looked at my son in the same way. Like, okay, he's not talking right now, but we're not worried about it.
Right.
So I delayed, I think, wanting to address, is this autism or what is this, until I absolutely had to address it, which was around the age of 3 or 4. He was, and still is, very active, extremely active. And so there were many signs. When I think about autism and when I speak about it to others, I always try to simplify it as best as I can, but as you know, it's very complex. And I talk about it in 5 different areas, communication challenges, repetitive behaviors, information processing. So it's not a slower way of processing, but it may, like you said, repeating instructions. They hear you the first time, but it's having to filter through so much that they intake, which goes to sensory, their sensory input, and then finally emotional regulation. And that's not in any particular order, but when I try to speak to someone who may not know about it, that's how I simplify it. And when I think about those 5 areas and my own son, I'm like, yeah, we were firing on all of those, probably from the age of 2 going into the age of 3. They were shouting at us.
Now, was he meeting his milestones according to the doctor before
like walking and doing those sorts of things? All of them except for the talking, the verbal ones. Yes. What about Bridge?
Bridge was meeting all the milestones.
Yeah.
All the milestones. He walked at, I think, it was always because I guess kids walk anywhere in between 12 months and 16 months. So he was like 13 months, 14 months.
I mean, a little bit earlier.
Even, some even young. Yeah, but he was like right on, I think he was like 13 months or 13 and a half months, something right there.
Okay.
He was speaking words. I do remember he did not even mumble mama until he was 2, but he was saying Dees. He was calling me Dees. My last name was literally calling me Dees.
I love
He
that.
was saying daddy. He even said the nanny's name before me. And it was just like, what does he have against me? I carried you for 10 months, set up in that NICU with you, went through postpartum depression. But words, and of course it was impressive that he was reading already at 2. At the time we didn't know that he didn't have the comprehension of what he was reading, which is still a struggle for him. So he can read like an 8-year-old at this point. He may not understand what the word means, but he can read it. He met that's the other thing. To be honest, I'm glad that you asked me that, because that was a little bit of guilt for me, because I was like, where did I miss it? What did we miss? Like, even, Brandon and I still go back over like, okay, where did we, but.
And if you would have caught it earlier, would it have changed anything? That's something that we should ask, because I also asked the same. I went through a stage of asking, what did I do? What could I have done? Instead of just saying, okay, this is my son.
And it's interesting, because I think for a lot of excuse me, for a lot of people, because I addressed this in the previous episode. I saw something online that was triggering me. I mean, what is it triggering online?
Yes, exactly.
Watch with caution. But, you know, there was kind of this attack on, you know, obviously in Congress and just a lot of things politically going around with, what is it, RFK? Junior.
Our good old friend, yes.
Yeah, but about, you know, autism and stuff and the vaccines. I did not vaccinate either one of my children. Autism actually was a fear of mine. But in general, and I talked about this beforehand, I wouldn't say I'm anti-vax, certainly not pro, but I wouldn't say I'm anti. It's just I don't do things that if I don't really understand why I'm doing it, if I don't really understand, I don't do it. So anyway, I'm making my point, not because I think whatever choice a mother makes for their child, if they think that that's the best, that's the one that they should go with.
Yes.
I'm only saying that to bring just another color to it, because a lot of times that's the assumption that, oh, it's toxins, or oh, it's something, you know, and then mothers can hold that guilt.
Yes.
So for me, I was like avoiding everything that I thought that would contribute to it.
Yes.
But this was his design. You know what I mean? This is the design, and you know, yeah, I'll say that.
I was intrigued to hear that Bridge was also in the NICU, because that was the thing, and I kept thinking, did I not cover him properly? Like, how did he get sick so young? And that still to this day, because they did have to administer certain medications to keep him alive. And so I finally had
Bridge had jaundice, so he was really losing levels, so the lights, different things with that. Yeah.
Yes. So, and Ryan also had jaundice. So, you know, we were trying to find a reason or a cause, as if maybe we could go back in time. But if I can share right now, if it weren't for Ryan, I don't think we would be on the continent. We wouldn't have a desire to come. I'm so serious. I'm serious.
Literally the reason, now this is before, I did not know Bridge was autistic until coming to the continent. But when I tell you that baby led us to the continent, he led us to the continent. I don't think I've shared this story with you. So
oh my goodness.
It was during the pandemic that I pretty much became, naturally, well, I went through postpartum depression, okay? That come down the NICU, and also being in a global pandemic. There was civil unrest, like the George Floyd protests were happening. I mean, all the things happening all at once. So I was in a dark place, okay? But I do remember the light coming on just a little bit where I started. One of the first decorations that we put in our nursery, actually for Bridge, was I wanted the nursery to have the wallpaper of a mat. Because I was like, I want my black boy. So his name is Bridge. And people always ask, you know, why did you name him Bridge? And I'll never forget, like when my husband and I were dating, I thought of the name, and I said, I just want a son that people marvel at, and he is this, like, I want him to feel monumental and big, you know, especially growing up in a society at the time, you know, will make you feel small. And, you know, Brandon and I were like, okay, well, Bridge, there's so many positive things to a bridge. You know, people go all around the world. It's a landmark for people. It's monumental. Wow. It brings people together. He's also the bridge of our family, which unites our family. And then we always say the bridge is the best part of a song. So there was so much meaning, you know, already in his name. But around the pandemic, we were like, I was like, I don't think I can mother right now in America. I think this is a lie, you know, it's a lie. And so I was like, Brandon was like, okay, well, yeah. And I was like, well, Thailand, you know, because Thailand was life-changing for me, and my favorite place that, you know, I went on vacation.
Wow, I've never been.
So Brandon, yeah, you should totally visit. Brandon was like, yeah, that sounds nice, but no. I want to raise my boys in an African country. So I was like, Oh, okay, I can get with that, but where? And so I was only familiar with very few countries in Africa. Obviously, I knew there are 54, countries, but I didn't have like a close up, like really awareness. I was only going by like the African people that I knew and that I was friends with, where they were from, and the places there. And I didn't want to go to those places. I won't say any names to offend anybody's country, but I was like, no, not this place, not that place. So I was like, where? And then so I was like, okay, well, let me open it up and research and stuff. And I was watching an episode of Passport Heavy. Shout out to Passport Heavy, which I'm glad to mention him, because what Jabril does with Passport Heavy, I think is like a bridge program, because it really opens up and shows people different sides of the world. And he was doing an episode, I think, on Ghana. And it was very electric. It opened my mind to Africa in a different way that it hadn't been open. So I was like, okay, looking at that around the time a lot of Americans were moving to Ghana. So I was like, okay. Then I just went down the rabbit hole of YouTube. And I happened to be watching this particular YouTube video. Another shout out to somebody, Rukia of Melanin Migration, who was living in Tanzania at the time. And she was like, you know what, Tanzania reminds me, or Dar and specifically, I should not say Tanzania in general, but she's like, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania reminds me of Thailand.
Wow.
So my antennas went up. I was like, okay. Yeah. I was like, okay. So now it's open. She was like, oh, it's coastal, it's this, that, and the other. So anyway, after that, I started watching a lot of videos, and we're like, we'll visit Thailand, Tanzania one day. I kid you not. After that, Kim, like every place, like I take Bridge to the doctor, and I'm like, yeah, I'm interested in visiting, Tanzania. And the doctor was like, oh, I'm from Tanzania. I interview a nanny, and she, I'm saying, oh, I'm interested in visiting Tanzania. Oh, I just came back from Tanzania, actually.
Wow.
Like, I mean, I kid you not, and these were real experiences. I can't even lie to you. And what hit it for us is one day, Bridge was obsessed with Achille and me.
Oh, yes.
Obsessed,
Same.
right? Favorite, right? Achille. And he was watching it just like, a regular day, and one day I heard a little voice on Achilles say, I'm live from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And I went, I was like, Tanzania is hunting me down.
Yes,
it's calling me, And so, long story short, he's a huge reason of why, we came here. So tell me about tell me a little bit of the contrast, because you're in the duality of those two worlds of being American, existing in America, coming to Tanzania, coming to the continent in general.
Yes.
What's the contrast there of having a Black boy who's autistic on the continent of Africa? What has it been like him experiencing the continent?
A third one for that question. Wow. So, Ashley, your story of how you came is absolutely beautiful, and shout out to Bridge and Ryan for inspiring families to change the trajectory, right? So my family and I, we came for the first time in 2023. So a little bit after the pandemic hype had calmed down. However, the images and the experiences of George Floyd and several others were still ringing in my mind. And as being a mother, an African American, Black, so many different labels, but of Black children, specifically 2 Black sons, I think the more of those images, Trayvon Martin, why am I blanking on his name? Elijah McClain in Colorado. Who,
there's so many, unfortunately, so I know how you can blank on names.
But it's definitely Elijah McClain, who, I don't know if they officially said he was on the spectrum or not, but it was tossed around. And for me, once that story came to the forefront, I felt like an immense pull to at least give my children a chance to know that there is another experience. Also, teaching as they were growing older, teaching them more about their culture. Although our people were brought to America as slaves, we do know that we descend from Africa. Maybe we don't know exactly where, but I'm like, I've got to, yes, and I've got to give my children at least a little bit more than what I had.
Yeah.
So all of these things were stirring. So as you know, I'm finishing my PhD, where my focus is educational psychology, and I specifically research the experiences of individuals on the autism spectrum in the education system. How do teachers perceive them? How do therapists perceive them? Because we have to start with how people perceive any phenomenon to truly understand. It's not as much for the people on the spectrum. I feel like it's for all of us in society.
Yeah, it's the society. Because they're growing up in a world that really wasn't built with them in mind, you know? Yeah.
But they have so much to offer.
Oh.
And if we keep missing out on that,
Yeah.
we are losing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so I became so frustrated. So I have all of this going on with being American and experiencing America as a Black woman, an African American woman, raising children now, still having the stories of my grandparents in my mind, my parents, and now, so more generations are being born, and the same trauma is happening. Then I'm addressing it from the research side, and so many studies. This is happening. By the way, the prevalence rate from the CDC of autism was just recently updated from 1 in 36 to now 1 in 31. But when I came, it was 1 in 36, which was, what was the previous one? 1 in 43, I believe, before.
Of kids that have autism.
By the age of 8. So the CDC.
I think that number is, that's.
Come on.
Yeah.
It's definitely more than that.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But you know, they are acknowledging that prevalence rate is rising.
Yeah.
So we can be thankful for that.
And as more people get, I guess, diagnosed. Let me ask you about that, actually, around diagnosis. We talked about this actually in my parenting group around some parents, feel like they don't want their child to be labeled.
I was that parent.
You're that parent?
I was.
I fought, which I'm interested in knowing both sides. I fall on the side where I celebrate the label. I'll tell you my reasons why, but I'd first like to know. So where are you now? Are you for labeling, in between?
I'm still a little in between.
Okay.
But I was very, very protective. I won't say against, but very protective.
Yeah.
Because being in the education system in America and seeing the definite over labeling.
Yeah. Well, we're already labeled with being Black, right? And what that comes with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now, and also the perception of autism. People tend to not associate it with being brilliant, with having all of these wonderful.
We have so much well-known people, very successful people, which is. I'll continue on your about the labeling.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We like you said, so many people who are extremely talented, and it is their autistic characteristics that's driving that talent. But people are still shocked sometimes when you say,
for sure.
hey, so-and-so's on the spectrum. They're like, really? It's like, what do you mean, really? So anyway, because of that perception, my biggest fear was that people would assume that my son couldn't because he has this label. That he would always be in certain classes because of this label and limited. Yes. But then, and I know we discussed it off camera, but then the pros that came with it were his accessibility to different therapeutic services, his participation in certain programs because of the label. So I saw both sides, but it took me a while to get there. It also, the school system was the first, he was in pre-K, so around age 4, and they started really like calling us in for meetings. And so shield is up, because it's like when you get called in for a meeting, you feel like something's wrong.
Yeah. Now, do you think, thinking about it, I don't know if you thought about this before, but having that background of being a NICU mom, do you think already like some of that plays into it, where it's like you're called into a meeting or someone is saying something is wrong in any way?
Absolutely.
That heightens it. I think for me, absolutely.
And it's shaped me so much as an educator now. I think it's fair and honest to say most people who have encountered me like professionally would say that I'm very, very, very sensitive to parents.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if there's a problem with parents, usually I'm the one that they're like, Kim, can you reach out?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't necessarily know my background.
And see, that's a gift.
How I got here.
That's a gift when you say how you got there. Because
Yes.
I do feel like, and particularly like when I was in the NICU, like when you're in it, you're like, why me?
Yes.
Why me?
Yes.
I don't deserve this. Why me?
Yes.
But now, with my voice, with my mission, with things I'm doing, I understand why it was
Would
necessary.
you have that passion? Ah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. My father, and I was angry at my father. Shout out to my father. Hi,
Hey,
Daddy.
Dad.
Yes, hi, Daddy. I'm not mad at you anymore, but because I said that. I literally said, why me? I love you, God. I try to do everything right. You know, why me? And my dad said, why not you? And I was angry.
Mm-hmm.
I cried harder, and I gave him the stank lip, and who knows what I did. But he said that.
Wow.
He said, why not you? And then didn't say anything else. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
He said that and let that sit. And I was like,
You're like, I ain't there yet.
oh.
Yeah.
But now I understand.
Now you understand.
He was saying, why not you?
Why not you?
You can handle this, and this is going to become something that drives you to something more. Talking about being a parent, I know we're talking about moms, but even fathers, you know, we're in shout out land, so shout out to our husbands, you know, Brandon and Rob. They also have their experience.
Yeah.
And it was my father who said that. You know, my mom and her nurturing side, she would never say something like that.
Yeah.
But my dad was like, no, I'm going to say the tough thing.
The tough thing.
That you need to hear.
And you may not want to, but you need to hear this.
Yes.
It's interesting you said that, Kim. Man, you're touching on so many of my senses right now and making me think of things as well. You know, I was in the Bajaji. It was about 3 weeks ago. Bajaji, by the way, guys. It's like you know what a Bajaji reminds me of?
What does it remind you of, Ashley?
You remember in the 80s, that, what is it, little tyke, that like toy car, like the yellow top and the like thing, like the Flintstone.
It's a three-wheeler.
Yeah, except you don't use your feet, but it's an actual motor. That's what a Bajaji is. I was in the Bajaji, and when I tell you, it was just the Holy Spirit. I know it just came upon me. There was this, how do I articulate it for you guys? It felt like a light. Like I was inside of the Bajaji, and I'm mentioning that because the Bajaji is covered. There's no sun. There's no rooftop in the Bajaji, right?
Exactly.
But it was like this crowning, it felt like, and I felt warm. Not hot, but like warm. And I immediately, like, my eyes welted up, and I was like, you think enough of me, God, to be this boy's mom? For some reason in that moment, I can't explain to you, but my perspective of it changed from a weight to more of like a responsibility. Like a crowning in a way, like a, you know, like when someone is being queened or they're being crowned or something, and they put that, I don't know, whatever that. I'm not like very well versed on royalty, but it felt like that. And I was thinking when you said, "Why not me?" That's what it made me think of. It made me think of like, well, okay, well, this is my job. You thought enough of me that you think I have what it takes to be this boy's mom, you know? It's already challenging being a mom, right?
Yes.
Then when you add on top of it raising a Black child Now I'm raising, along with my husband, someone that's going to be a Black man
Yes.
in global society. Okay, now we add on that he's autistic in a world that's still figuring out what that is.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm going to be an advocate about this. I'm going to be an advocate for him. So it did change. So I understand if your daddy would have said that to me, you know, some time ago, I would have been like, what? But I understand that now, and I'm sure in a lot of ways you do as well now.
I do. Ashley, wow. So much is coming out in this interview that we didn't realize that we shared. I also had a similar experience as you, but I was still pregnant with Ryan. I was about 7 months pregnant, in the shower, and he would always dance in the shower. Something about the water. And he still loves the water to this day, and he dances when we go to the ocean, when we're in the pool. Oh my goodness. And that particular day, he was doing his thing, but I all of a sudden felt weak, like in my knees, like I couldn't stand. Like the presence of God was in that shower, and I was like, so I'm holding on to the side, and I didn't hear an audible voice, but I felt in my spirit, this child will travel all over the world and show forth my glory. And tears began to come, and I called for my husband, and I said, because I had lost a child before my oldest, and I thought, am I not going to get to keep this baby? Because I'm thinking,
like,
where he going, and who going to be with him? Am I going with him? Like, you know, but that was so strong. And I didn't understand, but I knew what I had felt and what I heard. And I said, I told my husband immediately, and I said, I don't know what it means, you know, but, and so even when he was in the NICU, I knew that he would make it because of what I had heard, but I didn't know what it would look like. Every place that we have gone internationally, whether it be virtually, because I've spoken in the UK, I've spoken in Canada, of course on the continent of Africa, it's been because of Ryan. If I'm speaking about autism.
You're speaking about autism.
No one wants just to hear me speaking. They're like, we are inviting you to speak about autism. Can you talk about autism in international schools? Can you talk about autism in this way, in that way? It's always about autism. And it has been all over the world.
And it has been all over the world. Look at that. And
so Ryan was the bridge.
He was the bridge.
Because before then, now my husband had been to the continent. He went to Ghana on a missions trip my second year in law school, and I remember begging him not to go. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I was afraid for my husband to come to Africa.
Oh, we're the propaganda is real now.
It is, and I'm ashamed. I am ashamed
because I think I actually celebrate that you even shared that once that you were afraid, because that kind of frees some other people that may be afraid, and they're like, oh, well, look at her.
Well, let's talk about it then, because I was like, oh. Every day praying, please don't let him get sick. Please don't let a mosquito bite him. Please don't let nobody touch him. Please don't.
Listen, I just had a family member come over here. I'm not going to say who. Only ate out of the can. Only ate out the can. They are in the Garden of Eden.
No,
ate out of the can. Listen, I said, okay. Well,
next time.
Can't win them all.
Yes. Did you sit next to this family member with your nice, lovely plate?
I absolutely
samaki
did.
and all of that.
That's it.
So, next time. Yes. Because can we go on record and say, have you experienced any sicknesses related to food? I haven't. Related to water? I haven't. No one in my family has.
No one in my family, by the grace of God, thankfully. And not to discredit anyone that has, but I have not.
Correct. And I think it's important for us to let that be known. I keep hitting this microphone. I'm so sorry, microphone. I move my hands when I speak.
Yes.
I think it is important for us to just give that little caveat
Yeah.
that we've been up over here tearing up food.
Tearing it up, okay?
And it's
Food is
good.
literally spilling in the streets here. Fresh fruit. It takes longer to be prepared.
It's
because
true.
It's fresh.
It's true.
But it's made from scratch.
Yes.
With love, right?
Yes.
Tell me, I know firsthand that already being a mom, being a Black mom, there are antennas that, things just make you nervous, right?
Yes.
But then when you add being a part of the autistic community, having a child part of the autistic community, can you tell me how your mothering is different, in particular with Ryan,
Yes.
when you're in a Western society versus when you're on the continent of Africa?
Wow. To put it bluntly, and I guess more simply, I don't fear for his life on my own. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just, in America, and this is the truth, just a simple traffic stop.
Yeah.
My son has autism. He may bolt up from the back seat and ask for his anything random. He wants his lollipop. As soon as I'm pulled over, what does that mean to an officer who already can see, yes, I'm a woman, but still I'm a Black woman in America. And this
What's
can
Ryan's
happen.
stature, by the way?
So since he's 11 now, he's almost as tall as I am. And I tell him that every day, like, you're almost taller than mommy.
And he's gonna keep growing.
He will. That's right. Here, we have been pulled over by the police, but I've never feared for my life. The officers don't, they don't have the same.
Do you drive here?
We do.
You do drive, okay.
We drive. When in Dar, we drive.
Okay.
Because we have a big family, so we can't always get in the bajaji.
Yes.
The bajaji, for everyone, typically sits 3 comfortably.
Comfortably.
Yes.
I done seen some things. I done seen
some things
but
too.
we say comfortably 3, yes.
3 comfortably. And so my family of 6, we may not want to squeeze in a bajaji. So yeah, and I have had the opportunity to talk to an officer during a traffic stop here and just say, excuse me, my son, he does have autism, but I'm listening to you, and he's just, I'm Nashida, which means no problem, and so, whereas in America, when with the same thing, it's more of, I mean, I can't say every time I was met with hostility, but
the probability of being met with hostility is higher. Certainly higher than here.
Yeah. And even misunderstandings. When my son was smaller, he may try to take someone's snack or something. Those boundaries, those social awarenesses, social norms are a little bit different. And so in America, that could be someone wanting to fight. Whereas here, people share food. I'm on the beach all the time, and little kids walk up and they just, they can take your chips and there's no aggression. It's like we're all a family.
We're in a community where really, that community aspect is real.
It's real. Yeah. It's real. So just things like that. Always feeling like I have to protect him to the utmost degree. And really, I get sad when I think about it because I feel like I did stifle his freedom a bit, but it was in the interest of keeping him safe.
Of keeping him safe,
To the point where none of my children were allowed to go outside, even in the front yard, without announcing themselves, asking, and sometimes the answer was no, because we didn't have the beautiful gates that we have here and the calmness, the peace. So even in our front yard. So those are just some examples.
One of the things, I have not been stopped by the police here yet. I do see people get stopped by the police. The one main thing I could say is the police officer that's stopping you here looks like you.
Yes.
He's of the same hue. That's probably the biggest difference. That 10 times out of 10, I'm gonna say 11 times out of 10, the police officer is going to look like you.
Absolutely.
Interesting, like when you talk about the cops, I was having a conversation recently with another parent. She's actually also a psychologist, but she's a parent of a neurospicy child.
Okay.
And we talked a little bit about anything that I grieve of being a parent of a neurospicy child. And I had to think on it. And I thought of it as really around the talk. You know, that talk that all Black parents have to have with their kids, right?
Yes.
But I realized that talk with Bridge is going to be different than that talk with Asante.
Yes.
And I immediately went back to when I was stopped by the police. I was at the time living in Lawrenceville, Georgia.
Okay.
Racial tensions were kind of high at that time. I think Lawrenceville, this is Gwinnett County, Georgia, so Gwinnett has changed immensely. I think it's, I don't know, maybe predominantly Black now, but at the time that I was growing up there and growing up in a high school, it was diverse, but you know, and there was tension behind, you know, it changing, you know, like it always is, you know, in America when things are changing, you know, people are good. So, I had just learned to drive, 16.
Okay.
I think cell phones had just come out. I had a cell phone, but it wasn't really no cell phone. It was like a remote. Like it didn't really do anything. It didn't really. But anyway, I was just so happy. And I think out of my friends, this is how new cell phones were. I was like the only one out of my friend who didn't even have one and whatever. So I think I happened to be looking down or trying to do something with the phone. I just remember, and I caused a fender bender. I hit the back of this man's car. The man wasn't irate or anything. I mean, he just followed the protocol. I know in different states, like in California, you don't call the police because I don't know. I don't even know the reason behind that. Is it too many accidents or whatever? But you know, there's different jurisdictions for different states. In Georgia, at least at the time, you know, it was you have a police officer has to call and drop a police report, right? That was standard for there at the time. So, you know, he pulled over to the side. We both pulled over waiting for the police officer to come. I went to go pull out my license, my ID, and I didn't have my license. I couldn't remember for the life of me, where is my license? Mind you, I didn't realize till later, I had just come from work picking up my check. This is before direct deposit. For Gen Z, this is before direct deposit and all of this. You know, you gotta pick up your check, right? So you remember those, right? So I went to go pick up my check, and I think for whatever reason I was working at Baker's. If you guys remember Baker's ain't even in business anymore.
Shoes, right?
Shoes, yes. You couldn't tell me nothing about my job at Baker's, right? But for whatever reason, I don't understand now, but you had to turn in your ID to get your check or before you left, and then they give it back to you. Something.
They needed to prove that you were you, Ashley.
And it was like 3 people working there.
Nobody come get your check but you.
Something around something with that. Yes, proving with me. Even though it was like my boss that saw me every day, like I'm the only one that looks like me that was working there. But anyway, so I didn't remember, you know, when nerves come into play. So when we talk about being autistic and the senses and all that, when you add that on top of it, because just for any person, whether they're neurotypical or neurodiverse, when nerves come into play, your memory goes out the window, your words can't come out, you do things that may be perceived as, you know, out of order or whatever. So I didn't have all that. My nerves just came to play because actually who I'm afraid of at this moment is my mama, not the cops, because that'll cause a fender bender. So I can't even think like, Ashley, oh, you just left your license, you know, less than 10 minutes, 5 minutes away, because I had just come from the job, but I wasn't thinking. So anyway, I'm like, I don't know where my license is. So I call my mom. My mom comes to the scene. I'll never forget the officer, Officer Royals.
Wow, you still remember his name.
I still remember his face. Bald head, kind of skinheadish looking. I'm not saying he was, but you know, that kind of look, tall. Officer Royals was very hostile with me, extremely hostile. I'm a 16-year-old little girl, And I've always been small, but this is like I was like really small. Like at
Yes.
16, I probably looked 12. That's the kind of 16-year-old I was.
Yes.
So, yeah, he was really hostile with me. He kept me there for hours, saying, you know, how could he prove that I was what I say I was? It kind of, you know, looking back, reminiscent of where are your free papers? That's kind of what it was given, you know?
Yes.
My mom came, she was nervous at the time. I'm like, Mom, I think I left my license on my dresser. My mom's like, okay, let me go back to the house and look for. My mom regrets that to this day. Her nerves are, because she's like, I should have never left you at that scene by yourself. I was just like, okay, let me go get her license. Now, mind you, when she left though, it was daylight and it was, you know, kind of still busy, but he kept me there so long that at nightfall came. And what the thing is that my name, I always had kind of trouble with accepting my name being Ashley, because it was such a common name.
Same with Kimberly. I can relate.
You can relate. Yes. So exactly, a name like Kimberly, you probably grew up where there was a Kimberly C in your classroom, and a Kimberly H, and a Kimberly this and that. So I grew up like that. So there were like 3 other Ashleys with the same last name as me in my high school. The exact same name, right? But the only difference was they were white. And so even though technology wasn't where it is today, this man could look in this system. I'm sure it says C next to race for them and, you know, AA for me. But he was acting like he couldn't prove that I wasn't them. And I think one of them had like a drunk driving record or something like that. So he was very hostile with me. Anyway, I tell that very long story to say that I think about that with my bridge.
Yes. Because you still had, although you were overwhelmed, the wherewithal to endure without fully breaking down, without needing to continue with your routine. We spoke about, or when you think about autism, for those of you who are watching and who may not have a loved one on the spectrum or may not have as much familiarity with autism, repetitive behaviors and being able to adhere to your routine is very important for most on the spectrum. By no means do we mean to paint a picture that how we are describing our sons fits every single person on the spectrum. But there are certain characteristics that you generally see. And repetitive behaviors, adherence to routine, so we can think of both of those as like an R to help you remember, very important. So imagine being stopped by a police officer. That is the perfect example of a disruption of your routine.
Perfect example.
You are driving on your way, usually trying to make it home, trying to make it to work, wherever you're going, but you have a set goal and then you are cut off, however you want to look at it, but your goal is postponed for a moment by this unexpected interaction. Another thing, individuals on the spectrum are highly in tune with senses, so they feel
energy. Bridge's pediatrician literally told me, Kim, I think Bridge, he was definitely under 1. He was somewhere in between, I think he was 10 months at the time. She was like, oh, Bridge is really empathetic. Like he's an empath. She's like, he's an empath. So she knew that then. And I know that Bridge can literally feel, as well as there's some spirituality in there.
Absolutely.
He feels things before they happen. And also if your energy and something, but he really feels it a lot deeper maybe than the average person. So when you add that onto that, and I'm glad that you broke that down, especially as an educator, because we are bringing more awareness to this. When you say disruption of routine, I want people to also understand, because a lot of people don't understand that autism is a spectrum. And the way I described it on a previous episode to me, now you as an educator might be like, girl, that sounds crazy, but to me, this is how I break it down. I'm like, say, it's like being at a buffet restaurant, right? We're all at that same restaurant.
Yes.
And everyone at that restaurant may have a white plate. So those are some things that are common. They might be sitting in the same color chairs.
Yes.
A couple of people at this table have French fries.
Mm-hmm.
But
I like it.
some of them have peas. Some of them have French fries and peas. Then you go to another table. Some of those don't have French fries at all, but they do have the peas.
Yes.
Some of the peas are cut in half. Some of the people, it's like that. Like, that's how I think of it as a buffet. So when you say someone has autism, I think a lot of times people think of autistic people in a monolithic way.
Yes.
And that's also, to be honest, my shortcoming at the beginning before Bridge, that's how I thought of autism as well. So probably with even me being aware that Bridge had autism was probably a little later to the game, because my understanding of autism was nonverbal, flapping of the hands or repetitive movements with the hands, and you needed headphones on. That was like my picture, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of it.
Yes.
Bridge doesn't fit those per se. He's very autistic, but he doesn't necessarily have those things on his buffet plate, I mean, he has the other things that he has. He has many of the other, he stems, he does have repetitive behaviors, but they may not look like some of the other ones.
Yes.
When you say a disruption of routine, I want the listeners to know that that doesn't even necessarily mean that, because for some people it can mean, okay, I'm coming from work and now I know I'm going straight home. That can also mean that my body and my senses, I've been masking all day at school or at work.
Actually, can you explain what masking is?
Okay, so masking is really, and I don't know, you may tell me the age that it happens. I don't really know when they know that they should mask, but it happens, for example, when they are somehow aware that they are in another space that is not fully, I would say, welcoming, and not even where they're thinking of it as a societal thing of people are staring at them, but they've kind of aware, okay, this is not maybe acceptable behavior. So I'm trying to blend, and it's more of, I guess, maybe a survival kind of thing, to make them more comfortable. So they're suppressing whatever their heightened, very autistic colors are, they're suppressing them for the time being to be in that space. So for some autistic kids or adults, let's say their work day is a 6-hour work day, just for example, right? Let's say it's 6 hours. They've trained their body that for those 6 hours, okay, maybe I'm not going to stim as loudly, or I'm going to try. And this takes a lot of energy. I want you guys to understand that I'm suppressing whatever those urges or those natural things that are very natural to them. But by 6 hours, Brandon and I always joke, and we always say Bridge turns into a pumpkin. Think about Cinderella, with the shoe, and then the carriage turns into a pumpkin after a certain time.
That's a great connection.
When you think about us, I'm saying us, I'm not even sure, to be honest, if I'm really neurotypical. I actually think I identify more than neurodivergent community now that I'm more aware. So
something slightly embarrassing that we both share that I'm going to share on this camera when you finish.
Okay, so yes.
It's slightly embarrassing. We'll be fine.
Oh, it won't. All is welcome here, okay? So with that being said, that meltdown, or what may seem like, oh, this person is not able to control themselves, they may not really be, because their plan was, I'm going home now. I'm going, so for Bridge, his routine, when he comes out of school, his routine generally is to come home. He gets in the sand, he does his thing, he gets little sticks. He's an air writer. Bridge, that's a part of his stemming. He does the air writing.
That's a nice STEM.
Yeah,
it's academic.
Yeah, it's air writing. So he's spelling things in the air. So even if it's not us just going home and we're instead going somewhere else, he can deal, but he needs that air writing, or it's time to do it. So a disruption like a police stop that already is socially awkward.
Put your hands where I can see them.
Put your hands where I can see them.
Sit here and be still.
You also add in, Bridge is a Gestalt language processor. So the way that he processes language is in chunks and verse. So the way you're saying that particular phrase may be a bit like, okay, I never heard it like that, spoken a certain way.
Yes.
All of that when you add all of that, then on top of that, he can feel your energy is terrible. So that's adding to it.
Yes.
So then what you have is like a meltdown times 5, possibly. Can you imagine,
Exactly. So, that's heavy. So to lighten and slightly embarrass us, we both share a sensory sensitivity, and it's centered around our lips. My sister Ashley and I both, we enjoy making sure that our lips stay nice and moisturized, but it's not always appropriate.
As you do that, I'm like,
same. But it's not always appropriate to just bust out with your
chapstick. I got in trouble. Now looking back, got in trouble for school. It's interesting. Is it probably freeing and also a grievance of like now looking back at certain things that you notice are neurodivergent characteristics when you were in school and not acceptable?
Yes.
So that
we barely couldn't move in class.
Yeah.
Everyone needed to be sitting the same way. Now we have concepts like alternative seating.
At work, people have standing desks and things like that for sure.
Yes.
For me, it was around germs. Like I was
just hypersensitive, very much aware.
Even now, like even just saying germs, I'm like,
Yes.
like my hairs are raising.
Yes.
But it was kind of touched on several of my senses. But I don't know if you remember in the 80s, Kim, the boarding of the walls. What do you call the boarding of the wall?
Like the baseboards.
Baseboards. That's baseboards.
Yes.
They were rubber back then where I'm from, and they were brown.
Yes.
Do you remember those, like at daycares and stuff like that?
Yes.
So the kids would pull them off.
Oh, yes.
And it would literally like make my skin crawl.
Oh.
They look like little air bubbles, which also I didn't have a word. I'm itching now because I think about it. What do you call it? Tripofolia? I'm gonna look it up really quick. It's
Is
like
it a fear of?
It's like tiny holes.
Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a real phobia. I don't even actually want to pull it up on my phone because then it's going to show me, and then I'm going to feel hot. But really, what it is, and I'll correct this on the edit. I'll correct this so I pronounce it correctly. But if you look it up, it's a real phobia. I didn't have the length. I didn't know. I'm 5 years old.
Yes.
But what it is, your body has an it's over regulating for possible danger.
Yes.
So like those type of holes that I'm talking about is usually it's created to let someone know that this animal may be poisonous or this flower or this like thing may not be safe.
Yes.
But my body does it like over, like so if it's a 10 it goes like for 20 for me. So I literally feel like I'm itching. It's basically like having an allergic reaction without having any real contact with it. It's just from sight. So I would have that to the point that this sounds crazy. I'm sure back in the 80s too for my mom, this was a lot. I used to tell her to cut holes in my socks because I never liked wearing socks and going to the bathroom. I have to take my shoes off. It made me feel icky. So the compromise is like cut. And that, I celebrate my mom for this. One thing I really love about the way my mom mothered me, my mom really was like celebratory of who I was. There wasn't a whole lot of like, oh, you can't be this, so she's like, okay. But the school like pulled her into the office like, what's going on at home? Y'all need some socks? This girl got all
Wow.
But she was like, no, they're not like old socks, they're new socks, but Ashley requests for me to cut holes in them. And they're looking at her like,
wow.
Girl. So things like that, a lot of different things. Look at phobias and different things that I realized I really should have been homeschooled by the time I was in high school because I used to have panic attacks. And it was actually seen like, because I actually missed so much school my senior year from social anxiety. So things. This is another thing. But it's because Kim right now is actually in my home, and this says a lot. I actually don't really allow people in my home like that, because I'm
honored.
also very sensitive. It's not, people can misunderstand it, and it can be perceived as like a judgment or some stuck up nature or something like that, but I know my senses and I know me. So different things like that I have a better understanding of now, and I'm thankful for that, because I am mothering someone that's, you know, a part of that spectrum community.
Wow.
Yeah, but that wasn't available when we were kids.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But our children help us to learn so much about who we are as well. So what a blessing. What a blessing. You know, but to go back to your original question, which was, how can I describe like the difference, juxtapose the experience parenting my son on the spectrum in the West versus in the East?
Yeah.
There's so many differences. My son, he still is, but he definitely was a very picky eater. So we already touched on the aspect of peace. And yes, you know, there are still police officers everywhere, but just that aggression.
The aggression,
I don't sense that here.
Yeah. And the historical nature is in the fabric of, you know, America being built, you know, on our bodies, literally, you know, so.
Literally.
Yeah.
But even, I'll speak about health. You know, my son, he tries diverse foods here. And some of it is attributed to his age. He's older, so I will be fair with that. But he's able to experience a more wide variety of foods, more healthy foods. He is more free. I touched on that a little bit. I also am evolving, so I allow him to be more free. He can go outside, you know.
Which is a big part of it. I said coming here, I knew would allow me to be the better mother for them, so that they also can feel that, especially our autistic children. They can feel that, I believe.
Yes. My mom is more peaceful, so now I can be more free. Wow. And we have to find a way to really, really zone into that and be more interperceptive, you know, so we can understand when we aren't at peace and do something about it before our children pick up on it.
And now, how do you feel about this, Kim? I made a bold statement, I said before, that there's a quote, she's the head of Essence. I need to look up this lady's name because I'm mentioning her again. I'm going to look her up again.
Okay.
But
sorry, I can't help.
She's a beautiful Kenyan woman. She's Kenyan American.
Okay.
And she said that somewhere along early on in her life that she learned if she could not be who she was, where she was, that it wasn't that she needed to change who she was, she needed to change the where. I believe that, and I wholeheartedly believe in that, especially for Black people. Even more so for Black mothers who are parenting autistic children. Because I think a lot of us are parenting, when we're in Western society, we're parenting under like the fear of like the white gaze. Even for us, no matter how, you know, pro you feel like you are, you still realize you are in a place that you are not the majority. And so there is this sort of heightened people bondage, really, that you have. I feel like, now don't get me wrong, globally, you can experience people bondage, you know.
Absolutely.
But I do feel, for me, this is my feeling, that if Bridge is acting out somewhere, I feel like people, if they are judging, they're judging just him, but they're not judging, oh, there's that Black boy acting out. You know what I mean?
I agree with that.
Thank you for joining another episode of Color Me Mama. It's been a pleasure. Again, I'm your host, Ashley Shante. And until next time, keep coloring outside the lines. I'll see you next episode.